There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind.
It was basically a cube with inside of a sphere where the points of the cube were touching outside of the sphere.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger. There's troubleshooting as soon as I get.
So this isn't anything that just is limited to the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to That UFO podcast. It's a review of a documentary, and we haven't done one of these for a while. Dan, welcome back, fresh off of recording our first recording for weeks and weeks and weeks. We're doing two back. 100%, yeah, shaking the rust off. A Tear in the Sky, Dan, was announced some time ago, and the documentary from the team at UAPX. Well, I say the team at UAPX, or was it all Caroline Corey? That depends on how you feel after the opening minutes of this documentary. But A Tear in the Sky, nonetheless, is brought to you, in my opinion, by the team at UAPX, Gary Verhees, Kevin Day, Jeremy McGowan, and others. There's a whole cast list involved. Check out atearinthesky.com for full details of everything we're going to talk about here. We were sent an advanced screener, so thank you very much for to those who sort those out. We tend to get these. We just don't like to show off or brag about it online because loads of people want to see these things and desperately want to watch them more than us and part with our hard-earned money for them as well. So we're very fortunate to get advanced copies. So we always appreciate it. Written, directed, and produced by Caroline Corey. Dan, what do you know of Caroline Corey?
To be honest, when this was announced, to me, it was a UAPX-based thing. I've come to understand that that's not the case, and that Caroline and her media company kind of ran things. But yeah, in terms of Caroline's other films, I wasn't familiar with the name necessarily being attached to anything. But I'm curious, based on the vibes I got of how the piece was put together, what else she's done. Go on, enlighten me.
So I'm just going to read you a little bit of background. So Caroline Corey is an award-winning filmmaker and the visionary author of best-selling books on consciousness, science, and energy medicine. As a child and throughout her life, Corey has had numerous UFO encounters, as well as ESP, extrasensory, and precognition experiences, which led her to become deeply connected to existential topics, the study of consciousness, and the mechanics of the universe. Caroline Corey managed to, like yourself, Dan, I was 100% the same, where I thought this was a UAPX vehicle, because we have heard, and I don't mean the Osiris, lol. We have heard for some time that UAPX wanted to get to Catalina or other areas like that and get some real proper science and data gathering done using the Osiris, using boats and various different parts of equipment. And this seemed like, they've finally managed to get it done.
Yes, exactly.
And they're going to be releasing the footage and the data, and we get to watch that being done as well. Skinwalker Ranch-esque, and I'm going to come back to that, okay?
It's interesting you said that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it a few times, I think, throughout this. And like you say, like yourself, Dan, Caroline Corey, it seems to be Caroline Corey Presents UAPX and Friends. And yeah, so from the start, it opens to civilians discussing sightings. Interesting, yep. It's some faceless people we don't really know, but they're sharing, they've saw a sighting, they've saw a saucer, they've saw a disc, or they've saw an orb. Great, cool, but that's what we're here for. Then the special guest names attract your attention. William Shatner, Michio Kaku. I'll say straight off the bat, Dan, they did not have to be in this.
I literally have that in my notes here. It was nice to see Shatner, and it was nice to see Michio, but I don't really feel like they needed them. No. It felt like so they could be put in the trailer as opposed to anything else, and it makes me wonder how much of the budget went that way, because Shatner can't be cheap, right?
I would hope nothing, and they've done this purely because of their love for the subject, because Shatner gave throwaway sound bites, and God love him, William Shatner is an absolute legend of the silver screen and the small screen. Obviously, Star Trek was huge, and he'll forever be in people's memory for all sorts of things. Personally, as a wrestling fan, I remember William Shatner reading the lyrics to Shawn Michaels' "Sexy Boy" and other theme tunes famously on an episode of Raw. William Shatner is that type of character that'll live in so many people's memories, but
I think of Futurama.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. The Simpsons, as we know, right? But not for this. He isn't needed for this. And this seems that either Caroline Corey is called in a favour and called in Michio Kaku, who we love to see in various different things, but they are celebrity talking heads that don't need to be any part of this documentary. They detract from it, they take away from it, and I hope they haven't taken away any of the budget that could have went to the UAPX guys and what they were trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Straight off the bat,
it would
Dan.
be a shame if, they didn't get an extra FLIR camera, for example, because they had to go to Shatner's house and film with him. Yeah, same.
Yeah. And I'm going to say that there are things about this I enjoyed, and I know you did as well, Dan, but there are some things that really frustrated me or I disliked, and this was one of them. I feel Carolyn Corey, who again wrote, directed, and produced this, turned it a little bit into her own piece rather than being about UAPX and the data, and tried to make it like a bit of Ancient Aliens, the movie.
It certainly had that vibe in places, didn't it? It was. I think it was the stage scenes. I understand. This goes to me saying that it was interesting that you mentioned Skinwalker, because they have a kind of a stage scene at the end. And I say stage very loosely because it's just the production crew get everyone into the room and sit them all at a table and make them talk. But unless the people doing that are actors, you can just sense how uncomfortable they are and things like that, and it makes for really awkward watching. So I would just say, if you're a filmmaker, don't do that. Please don't do that. It really just ruins what you've got going on.
Yeah, it seemed like they took the worst things of Skinwalker Ranch, the TV series, and threw it all into this documentary again. It's the sort of stuff that people criticize when they see these types of pieces, and it puts them off watching them again. And I think that's really frustrating, because I don't think it should be difficult to make one of these and make it well.
It's funny you say that as well, because I think in some ways this might have worked better as a 4 or 5 episode television show about and really go in depth with the UAPX guys about what they were doing, the equipment they had, and really make it a fly on the wall documentary as opposed to this super slick, super staged in parts film.
Yeah. Caroline Corey introduces the documentary talking about the 2017 New York Times article, how it changed a lot, and it mentions the go fast gimbal and those videos that we've all become so accustomed to. We get a recap of the 2004 Nimitz Princeton event.
Can I just ask, did you enjoy the CGI backgrounds during all of these kind of sound bites? I don't understand why those were there. Again, it's just added expense, and I don't know how much it cost, but it made it look super cheesy when they could have they were in this beautiful location with Catalina behind them. Yeah. I know how that goes. Use it. Have an interview on the beach or something.
Even like a stool with a brick wall behind them, tastefully shot, would have looked really nice.
Yeah.
And just focus on the people and the conversation and what Gary and Kevin and Jeremy and Kevin and the other Kevin, and all the rest of them want to accomplish.
It ends up being
rather
distracting.
than all it is. It just screams of, let's make this look like Ancient Aliens, because people love Ancient Aliens. A lot of people watch Ancient Aliens because they find it a joke and they don't have an interest in the subject. And it's like, so what audience are you going for here? You're trying to present a serious scientific data gathering team with some really serious equipment that we'll get to, which is really cool, in a really jokey, cheesy, old-fashioned ufology way. And it's just it's another one of those documentaries that really frustrates me.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating having been out and taken part in filming a documentary as well, which is yet to come, and people can judge that on its own terms.
Yeah,
but from what I've seen of it, I'm confident that there were no staged moments like that. Everyone was very natural talking. There's not going to be any cutaways that are kind of filmed after and put in and just look just terrible and take you out of the film. It's just going to be a genuine, bunch of people doing an investigation, which I expected this to be.
Yeah, in this, I wanted to hear from Gary, from Kevin Day, from Kevin Knuth, Matthew, is it Zagadis, Jason Turner, Dave Altman, Jeremy McGowan and the others who appeared, I didn't need to hear from Kaku and Shatner and Caroline Corey as often as I did.
Yeah.
The recap of the 2004 Nimitz Princeton event, Stephen Greenstreet even shows up. And for someone who recently has had so little interest in the UFO subject, he certainly gets himself about the UFO documentaries, doesn't he?
Big shout out to Chrissy, though, because she shows up, and Chrissy has just joined Somewhere in the Sky not too long ago, and she's doing great with Ryan over there. So
she does.
big
A
up
lot
to
of
those
people,
guys.
a lot of people do get involved, and that's great. We get to Kevin Day, and this is where I maybe started enjoying it a little bit, and it's one of the things I did enjoy about the documentary. Kevin Day talks about how frustrated he was, and we've seen the emotion in the past with him as well, that this ended his career. And like we talked about, Dan, in the breaking news pod about the upcoming, if you're listening to this before the 17th of May, congressional hearings, then, you know, this ended people's careers. It potentially took people's lives. This, you know, these experiences. And Kevin kind of gets that across on camera without any need for CGI backgrounds and intense music playing. We then cut back to Caroline Corey.
Can I just take a beat here just to say,
Go.
like, I'm not sure if he's listening. I know Kevin has said previously that he's listened to a few episodes of ours and things like that, but he supported me in another way by he gave out the Tic Tac design mugs.
He did, yeah,
as gifts, and I just wanted to say a big thank you. And you know, it means the world that he enjoyed that art, and it, you know, scratched that spot for him. So yeah, thank you, Kevin.
No, that was really cool. I remember I saw that on Facebook and shared it with you. Caroline Corey then announces she decided to take on this challenge. And I've got here, folks, peek behind the actor's curtain. Wasn't it Gary and UAPX who spearhead this? Caroline, whether she means to or not, makes out that this was all her idea and that she's almost hired these people to put this plan in motion, when I think if you've been following UAPX, that you know this has been something they've been looking to do for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I don't know why it was presented like that, because it doesn't really add anything. You know,
no.
Again, compared to Skinwalker, Brandon Fugal is paying for the whole operation, but he doesn't keep rocking up, kind of lording it over everyone. It's a fairly even documentary that he's a part of. You know, he doesn't feature more, he features less, if anything.
Yeah, it's like him rocking up behind Eric Bard, tapping him on the shoulder in the command center and saying, "So what are my computers saying today, Eric?" Like, it's not the point. So it lessens the importance in a way of UAPX when this is very much their venture. For me, and if I'm wrong, someone can correct me, but I don't think that is.
I would agree, and it's a shame because they're a bunch of individuals. You know, no matter what you feel about the work that's been done in the documentary and stuff, you know, we'll see the results in the SEU, but they've put themselves out there to do this work, and that deserves a massive amount of respect. And it's a shame that they weren't lifted up in the way that a lot of us expected them to be.
Yeah, the Shatner sound bites come in. The editing's pretty poor of these, where you're getting very vague and random points that William Shatner's probably being told to say, or he's made a very generic statement and it's being interspliced with the video. Things like, UFOs are real, the government have admitted that. And it's like, ancient aliens. It's just an ancient aliens advert at that point. Caroline Corey and William Shatner have turned this into pure ancient aliens. Gary and Kevin being introduced to Jeremy. Now, correct me, Dan, again if I'm wrong, but they already had met Jeremy before this. There's a whole handshake that goes on, and hi, yeah, nice to meet you. Totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
That serves no one. Again, it looks like Caroline's brought her friend Jeremy along, who has this car that I don't know if she's going to claim that she also paid and financed that, which we know is definitely not true.
No, I mean, you know, Jeremy's made that through blood, sweat, and tears, and literally fire. You know, he's put that together himself, and again, it would be nice to see that lifted up, because those efforts are the efforts that we need from people now. You know,
Jeremy did put the Osiris together, which is an incredible piece of kit. Did he also design the graphic, Dan, on the side of it?
No, he didn't. And a thank you to the producers in this film for not blocking any of my work out, because it features in quite a few scenes kind of on the back of laptops and things like that. So yeah, that insignia was really cool.
And it was Dan that designed that, folks, just for anyone who... But that's something, obviously, when we spoke to Jeremy some time ago on the podcast, along with Sean at the time, that we talked about as well. So go back and check that one out if you haven't heard. Things have moved on and changed a lot since then, but still worth listening to that one. Gary and Kevin talk about the south part of Catalina Island being an area they really want to focus on. Right, this is another bit where I feel we've seen a bit about Kevin talking about his experiences, the emotion, how it changed his career and ended his career. I really enjoyed that. Cuts away all the nonsense, back to Gary and Kevin. Again, I'm invested because they're talking about the south part of Catalina Islands being an area they want to focus on, something we've talked about several times on the podcast as well, Dan. It's a hotspot that people are very interested in, something potentially being housed or based or very much present under the water there, or at least using that part of the water for unknown reasons. The team talk about data collection, optical, thermal, acoustic, and more types of data they can collect. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, good, we're finally getting into the reason I thought I was watching this documentary. This is what UAPX have been talking about for a long time. We're going to get to see them putting their plan into action.
Did you laugh when? So my notes basically kind of say about the stage scenes, and it finishes kind of saying, clearly this is very Skinwalker, and then the next note is, oh, Travis Taylor's just popped up. I actually thought he was beneficial to this because he broke things down. You could kind of see the experience he had with playing to an audience.
Stop reading my notes. So yeah, I'll get to that in a second, right? I've almost got the same word for word.
Okay.
Just before Travis Taylor turns up, Kevin Day says that he wants to prove these objects are real, findable, and that they are knowable. And he says we can know what they are. Dan, I want to ask you, is there potential that as a species and where we are right now that we can't know what these are?
I knew you were going to ask that. And yeah, absolutely. There's every possibility that we literally can never see or experience an interaction with whatever they are. We might see the vehicle that they're in, but they could just be unknowable to us forever. You know, like I said, the lack of a fingerprint could end up being their fingerprint.
Yeah, it's that fish analogy again, isn't it? Of the fish, and we're the fish, and we can see the bottom of the shiny boat, and you can see the light around it, and the refraction of the bottom of the boat, and you don't know what's on top of it, you don't know what's inside of it. And as a fish, you literally physically can't get up and into the boat, but
absolutely.
You can get up close to it, and you can bounce off it, and maybe the propeller catches you and injures you.
But it does make me wonder, though, because at a certain point, you know, there's a creature in the ocean that sees that fish, and evolution kind of starts pushing it towards being able to get on the boat and live there, and it goes on to land. And, you know, there's an argument to be made that now we're a kind of a spacefaring species and we're pushing towards the bottom of the oceans, that our perceptions are opening up, and more of us than ever are kind of encountering odd things that are out there because our perceptions are changing. There is every possibility of that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really nice quote from Kevin, and I'm guessing he wasn't paid the same as Michio Kaku and William Shatner to say it either. So
I mean,
thank you.
Kevin knows that these things have an electromagnetic signature. To him, that's knowable. You know, he can see it on his screen and define it. He knows that signature doesn't belong to anything else that is in the human-made inventory as far as he knows. So yeah, I'd say that he knows it in an unknowable way.
Sure. On the surface, they seem to have a lot of reasonable and pretty advanced equipment throughout the team, not just the Osiris with Jeremy. I thought that was really good. I liked seeing the setup.
Are we talking James Mason and his inventions?
Which were?
So we had the light wave transmitter. I thought that was really cool. Basically it could translate from light to sound, sonification, I believe that's called, and back again. But it could play kind of different radio stations essentially at the same time, so it could broadcast across frequencies. So I really I made a few notes to kind of mention David Mason here, because this is something that I would have loved to have seen more. Where did he get the ideas to kind of make these? You know, like, did he have an experience? Has he grown up with this interest? He seems very, very intelligent. It would have been lovely to kind of really get into that. You know, did he make these in a garage?
Well, it was pretty interesting stuff. And again, just before we get to Travis Taylor, I was impressed with the equipment. I wanted to see more of that. You know, I was happy to see the setup of it, you know, what they were doing, why they were doing it. They cut to Dave Altman, and he spots what seems to be a plane. And there's a few occasions during the documentary, and whether it is the dramatization or misidentification or just the way it's presented, we get quite a lot of shots and moments where we're looking at a whole lot of nothing the way it's being presented, and it's doing that. Oh, would you look at that? There's a light in the sky.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell a story about the first firefly I ever saw in Colombia. And it caused a ruckus. A bunch of us had never seen one. There was a single firefly, and it kind of messes with your perception because you feel like it's bigger and further away than it actually is, and it kind of covers ground in a way that you just think it's going faster than it is because of that depth perception issue.
Mhm.
But for, I would say, a good 5 minutes in Colombia, a whole bunch of us were transfixed by this light in the sky in the forest that was jumping around, and we were just like, what the hell is this? And it took us ages, and eventually we figured out it was a firefly. And I don't know if this is going to be in the documentary, but I have the footage in the moment where I kind of saw it against the moonlight and the wings flapping and just realized, oh, I've seen my first firefly. But this moment reminded me of that it would have been cool to see them just debunk themselves instead of play this up. But I wonder if that's to do with, maybe if UAPX had creative control over this film, they just wouldn't have included that bit at all because they concluded that actually it was prosaic, it was a plane or something.
So Dan, do you know what? See, for me, and when it comes to phenomenology, I've said to you, I will review it fairly and honestly, and if I don't like it, I'll say, you know what, I've got issues with it. If I love it, I'll say that, and I'll pick it apart the way I do anything else because it's only fair. Let's use that example then. For
Sure.
me, you have a moment which is interesting and can be quite fun, and as a viewer, I'm more than happy to see that, see a bunch of people seeing something they think might be anomalous. Given what you're out there filming, you're hoping and looking for something, so there's a bias there, good or bad.
100%.
However, if you show the evolution of the moment and that you see it, you misidentify it, you then find out actually this is what it is, here's how we made a mistake, it's the depth. Ah, right, okay, and you get that moment of, like you say, self-debunking, and right, actually it was a firefly. Sure. That helps people because other folks can say, do you know what, fair enough, they're not just out to misidentify and misrepresent what they saw. But what seems to have happened here is if you take that same scene, Dan, that you see the firefly, and all of a sudden we hear do-do-dum, 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 and some intense drums start playing, and then the camera starts shaking back and forward, and Travis Taylor pops up in the background going, oh my God, what is that? And you start getting this really fake, intense scene, and then it cuts off before you tell everyone it's a firefly.
Sure.
That's I have an issue with, because you're misrepresenting exactly what happened. And I feel that goes on quite a lot in this, where they're looking for footage to be anomalous. I think it happens a lot in Dr. Stephen Greer's documentaries at times, where they'll show things and they'll present it as anomalous, and it's not. But, and again, in the same way that Fox, CNN, whatever the news station might be, will show well-known fakes or hoaxes, or the Apple apps that you can make a UFO, and we've seen those on the live news with millions of people watching it, and it's just like, oh, come on. So yeah, that was disappointing to me, and I don't think there's any need for it. Have the conversation. Oh, it could be a plane, it could be this, but you've got tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment round about you that Caroline Corey's bought for you, apparently. Use it and tell us why these things are what they are, or why they might not be what they are. That brings in Travis Taylor. I did a very slight eye roll when I saw Travis get involved, because he's a big part of the Skinwalker Ranch series, but it's a known fact that Travis has been on other documentaries and shows of that type, because as much as he is a scientist, he's also very charismatic and knows how to play to a camera. He's very good at being the guy who shows up and, I don't think anything's going on here, but by the end of the episode, he's fully bought into the mystery and the intrigue, and he pulls the viewer in that sense. It's his job, and the History Channel put him on Skinwalker Ranch as the show. That wasn't one that Brandon, my mate Travis, it was, no, we want this guy involved. Anyway, like you said, Dan, Travis Taylor does a very good job of almost playing dumb when he clearly knows what this equipment does. He breaks it down, and like you see, he talks about was it the same piece of equipment that he mentions? Oh, so it filters out all the signals in the background so you can get a really good look. He knows that, but he's telling you, the viewer, and that's something that I need. I'm like, okay, so that's what that does. And he gives you a nice, simple context as to how this very special, very fancy, very advanced equipment works and how it's going to be used in this documentary. So I like that. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. It was good to see you know, when he was against people that just aren't used to that environment, you could see how easy he was and the benefits that he brought to a production.
He was a bit of a mesh, wasn't he, for it, bringing it together, and I liked that, and no issues. That was a good use of
For sure.
Travis. There was some lovely shots of the area. It's a beautiful, beautiful picturesque area. The skies, the filming of the nighttime stakeouts, I thought was really cool. I would love to see, like, actually, I don't want to see it now, but at the time, seeing this for the first time in like 4K, you know, resolution would have been lovely if you could have got that nice nighttime shot and everything as well. Thinking like Michael Mann, Collateral style filming would have been nice, like the depth in the backgrounds and stuff. Shout out to anyone who has seen Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx.
Great movie.
Phenomenal movie. Michael Hall says that they've picked up some UAP. The data they have collected shows no sound. It didn't activate their fisheye system, but it shows on one camera, but not on another. And I thought this was interesting, but I wanted to ask you, Dan, I've not given you this beforehand. Did you have any thoughts at the time watching it of what that could be and why something would show up on one camera but not the other?
So, I mean, you might predict this, but I would invoke Hessdalen and Earthlights and things like that. They were literally tracked going from, you know, visible light into non-visible light, and they move essentially from one camera screen to the other as they kind of move through the spectrum. So it could be a similar phenomena that they're seeing there. You know, you can see it on radar, but you can't see it with your eyes, or you can see it with your eyes, but it doesn't show up on the FLIR because it doesn't have a temperature. And there are all these kind of oddities that add up to a kind of low observability, which is one of the 5 observables, right?
But that's still something potentially anomalous. So you were
100%.
quite happy when you saw that and how it was presented, because for me, I was like, oh, that is quite interesting. But are there going to be people sitting there shouting at their TVs going, no, that'll just be this or just be this? But if it is that sort of light phenomena, then yeah, okay, it's potentially something pretty cool.
This is kind of the trouble with the nature of the beast. You know, this documentary, the data and the review of the data is coming later. I almost wish that they'd held off kind of finishing the documentary until they could present the data properly and say what they'd found, whether it was prosaic or not. You know, it was about the whole expedition for me, and kind of cutting off the end just kind of, I don't know, it every time I saw something interesting in the movie, it kind of made me a little bit sad because I knew that I wasn't going to get any more information on it in this film.
And for me, I think that underpins the difference between what UAPX would have done and what Caroline Corey did and wanted to do, because shows like Ancient Aliens and the like aren't about presenting the data and the results. It's about the speculation and, oh, it could be this. And we'll leave that to your imagination because you want to watch the next episode now. Objects picked up on FLIR are tic-tac looking.
You know when someone's just heard the cool term and they kind of just repeat the cool term, like, oh, they're tic tacs. I gotta say, Caroline didn't seem that kind of, you know, she was very nonplussed that they were possibly tic tacs. You know, the objects kind of fall into the ocean floor. It might have been tic tacs, it might not have been, but I wouldn't have said tic tacs. I would have said anomalous objects. You know, it kind of just speaks to trying to get in with the kids, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't a tic-tac, but not quite a saucer, as the kids say and sing these days. I thought at this point, I was thinking it could do with a better explaining of the readings being picked up, why these objects are interesting, and why they point to them potentially being anomalous. But I think, like you say, Dan, we're getting an instantaneous shot of a screen, and then never mind the data, that'll come later because that might not be of interest to you. So let's just leave it with it could be this and that's it. It's that one source thing again.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's not interesting, it's not going to come up again later, right? You know,
exactly.
I really hope that they do just kind of say, in the film, we said this was interesting. It turned out it was a plane.
Yeah, one of the FLIR cameras they look at. For me, they talked about it being anomalous, but for me, it looked like a bird potentially zoomed in. They talk about it flying along and then turning a little in. But, and again, do I sound like a Mick West here? But with no expertise, I was just looking, going, it looks like a bird's wing, and maybe it's not that far away, but they didn't present the data or have someone explain it to me, why this could be something more than just a bird flying. So it lent very much on this is anomalous, because look at it.
It would have been
and that's it.
cool if maybe, say there were 5 clips of interesting things throughout the film, if they'd have labeled them and then at the end kind of came back to say, okay, number 1, what was it?
Yeah.
We checked the radar, we checked this, we checked whether it was a bird. And they kind of just broke them down. And, for better or worse, if they were prosaic or not, it would have been really cool to see them just knock those down and figure them out.
I mean, that could have been the end of it, where they go through 5 slides and go, the first 4, here's why it's a bird, a bug, a firefly, Dan's hat getting thrown in the air. However, slide 5, slide 9, hey, and it shows you an anomalous object, and they go, this is why we think it's anomalous.
Yeah.
And it could end on a note like that, and then more data to come, and that would be interesting potentially, but they don't go that route. And I feel towards the end of the documentary, it's a lot of shots and discussion like that. At that point, it seems to have run its course in terms of what Caroline Corey's looking to get out of it. She uses the line that they need to use scientific data to rule out human-made advanced technology. I listened back to that about 3 times to check that it wasn't just me not understanding that sentence, that you have to use scientific data to rule out human-made advanced technology. I think I know what she's getting at, but that screams to me that someone who has thought of a really intelligent line wrote it down and thought, I have to get that in there somewhere. And it just doesn't quite fit.
Doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
No. It's one of those, I know what you mean, I think, but no.
Yeah, like drawing the Mona Lisa on an Etch sketch.
Yeah.
I can see what you're getting at, but you've done it in the wrong way.
Yeah, 100%. The finale builds towards a now infamous online.
The wormhole.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, a potential wormhole anomaly.
Yeah, they totally call it a wormhole in the film.
Yeah,
they totally do. And during the kind of the UAPX did a post-film discussion.
I'm going to get to the fallout as well, yeah.
Sure. I was just going to say, Matthew does say, when you kind of get caught up in the moment and you call it something and people pick up on it, and that he was hoping that it wouldn't get used in the film, but unfortunately it did. So yeah, Matt Shidakis was honest about that, and credit to him for it. It's just a shame that people have to see the post-film discussion to get that information.
Like when you spot a firefly in the forest, get excited, but within a few minutes realize it's not a UAP, it's a firefly.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll totally show that when the documentary starts airing. We're going to do some kind of live after shows after the episodes air, and yeah, I'll show that footage. It was cool.
Dan, before we talk about a little bit of the fallout, overall, would you recommend this to people?
Yes, and very, very specific reason, because it shows that the floodgates are opening in terms of being able to go out and do these investigations yourself. Yes, the equipment is expensive, but it doesn't mean, you've got a high definition camera on your phone. You can film things. This documentary could have been made for a lot cheaper. And, I've seen some of the footage from Colombia, how it kind of looks nice with the depth of field and, the effort they're putting into kind of certain other aspects of it. Things like this can be made to a really high standard now. And Biden is signed off on everyone being okay to go do them. So I think it's really important to kind of see the first steps of what might be a super popular thing to do in a few years, forming. The mistakes that they make in this documentary will inform other documentaries that are coming out easily.
Yeah, I would agree. If you have the spare cash, it's the same. It's less than the cost of a takeaway, or a couple of beers, or a few coffees. Then, yeah, go and watch it. Pay to rent it, or pay to buy it, whatever is your kind of poison. I think you'll come away from it frustrated, but I think there are parts in there that will frustrate you in a good way, that you'll want to see more, and you'll be glad for having seen them. People like Kevin, Gary, Jeremy, and others within the body of the documentary do a good job, and it's interesting to see the equipment and to see what could have been. And it makes me want to see, if UAPX can get someone else to back them next time, or do this themselves. Again, it's not cheap. I would be all in on a follow up through UAPX directly, because there was some interesting stuff here. I'm disappointed in the way Caroline went about it, the way she presented it, the way it was portrayed. and even if it was her money, which is her money, sorry, that she used to fund this, take your ego out of it and allow the study and the data and the science and the team to do the work, and just be happy that you can make and contribute to a product and getting that out there. Because otherwise, I'm not saying it is, but it can look like you're just in this to make money, that you've just made Ancient Aliens or Skinwalker Ranch the movie, and it's out there because you wanted to put William Shatner and Michio Kaku as sound bites in a documentary.
They were in the after film discussion as well.
Is this
The
a UAPX
UAPX
roundtable?
guys were the UAPX
Yeah, let's
roundtable.
talk about that. So Fallout afterwards, yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that they speak about the production team moving certain equipment once they'd set it up. So things like that just make me think that the production team really didn't respect the scientific work that was going on, because why would you move that scientific instrument? Like, you're there to respect that and to tell people about that. You know, you're not just going to willy-nilly move it around because you want to put your camera there. I think that kind of speaks volumes about the attitude.
Yeah. Remember, Dan, when we all went to London for that top secret super mission that weekend? And
Oh yeah, I remember.
we
met that Grey.
Yeah, that was it. We all crammed into that to be Airbnb, and it was a good time. We'll be doing it again soon. But for us sitting and setting up a camera in the sitting room with your background and expertise, Dan, you moved lots of lights about, and you knew what you were doing, so we let you do it. You had a better idea than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But what I didn't do when you started moving lights about to get the optimal lighting for all of us on camera was go up and start moving it elsewhere and go, nah, I think it'll be better here, because I don't know what you're doing it for, and it's not my area of expertise, so I just left it to the expert. And like you say, I feel that's where they got involved when they didn't have to. Again, Fallout wise, there was quite a lot very quickly after. I mean, actually, before this was released on the 3rd of May, I think on the 2nd of May, I believe it was Jeremy McGowan was already commenting on certain aspects they were unhappy about in terms of what was filmed and how it was presented. Caroline Corey then got in defending the presentation, saying that people agreed to everything that happened. That doesn't seem to be the way Gary and co felt about the overall presentation at the end. I don't think it's unfair to say they were disappointed with how it turned out. And again, I believe on the day or day after release of the documentary, Kevin Day left UAPX.
That's right. Greener pastures.
But
There was no bad blood, it seems.
No, that's right, yeah, because I saw the conversation on Facebook where Kevin mentioned because of the documentary, he had the opportunity to join another research team. I thought it was odd, given, and I've interviewed Kevin Day a couple of times along with Gary as part of UAPX, that very quickly Kevin has left this kind of passion project of his for something else. Honestly, I haven't seen where he's going and why. I don't know if you have, Dan, honestly, because I genuinely haven't. It just seems very odd. Gary was very nice, and again, straight away on the Facebook post said, "You'll be sorely missed. It's been great working with you. You know, all the best in your new venture." It seems an odd decision by Kevin, though, to do that. I don't know, Dan. It's like
I mean,
like
he might be getting paid the
doing
big bucks by the Men in Black. We don't know.
Mm,
I'm kidding. I don't want to start.
yeah, no, I
speculation
know,
there.
but it's just such a
You know,
strange move.
I hear you.
Like,
I hear you.
it's
It
like us,
seems like they were about to kind of hit the ground running with this documentary being
Yeah.
released, and now he's stepping away from it.
yeah, like us doing this. Me and you going on to a big not Rogan, right? Because it's not Joe Rogan, but like a reasonably decent. It's like us going in Jimmy Church, right? And then the next thing I know, like the day after, you going, do you know what? I'm really happy to announce that I'm leaving that UFO podcast and I'm off to do this thing with Jimmy. And it's a great opportunity. And it's like, huh? Literally yesterday we were doing this, and today you're off doing this now? It just seems a really strange move from Kevin.
For what it's worth, I'd never leave you for Jimmy. I felt dirty when you said that.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't leave me for Jimmy Church, yeah. Others, yeah, but not Jimmy. But yeah, it seems really odd, very strange, really strange timing. And it was a crazy amount of drama all in the space of a couple of days of this being released. Not even days, like hours, that Kevin left. Gary's looking to take some time off. The documentary seems to have fell flat on its face. Corey was defending the presentation of it. did she go a bit rogue? Who knows? But ultimately, yes, we recommend going to check it out. However, that's our honest review of it, and folks, we won't ever lie about anything, or even when we're giving these things, I really hope any directors, producers, or people involved in the PR are always willing to let us share our honest thoughts, because otherwise, don't send us a screener. As much as we'd be disappointed not to get the chance to talk about these, I would still pay and buy them anyway. But we're always going to be honest, and we are still recommending people watch it, because like we always say, make up your own mind. Don't listen to me, don't listen to Dan. You can listen to our opinion, but completely make up your own mind with anything to do with this subject, because you may come away from it really have enjoyed it and enjoy that presentation. It's not for me, it wasn't for Dan, but it might be for you.
You know, there are people out there that really enjoyed the Demi Lovato series, for example, and from a certain angle, I can totally appreciate why that might have been your window into it. So don't think that we're just saying that something is objectively awful. It just means that it wasn't for us. But I'm glad that this got made. I'm glad that it's out there as an example to people that they can make it, or do things like this and investigate UAP. And I kind of the summarizing thing for me would be that with all the equipment malfunctions and everything moving around, I would say that this documentary justifies why we need something like the Galileo project, with the permanent observatories all set up, triangulating, collecting data 24/7 with full staff looking at them all the time.
Yeah, and funny you say that, Dan, about the Demi Lovato documentary. All three of the people who enjoyed it are on the podcast with me next week. So I'm joking. Yeah, but everyone has their own taste.
Sean Cale's coming on next week.
Hey, hi Sean. Yeah, so if you enjoyed it and it's for you, brilliant. There are other documentaries coming this year. We know James Fox's Moment of Contact is coming out in the coming months, but already the Aerial Phenomenon documentary is out 20th of May. Dan and I have seen it. We won't release our thoughts or reviews yet until it's released, because that's what we're asked to do. But we'll record the preview and review of it, ready for when it comes out. I'll just say I enjoyed it more than this.
Yes, I would agree with that.
That's it. But we won't spoil anything about it. But yeah, I enjoyed it more than this. It's very different. So yeah, in the meantime, Dan, again, good to record again. We'll be getting back in the swing of it, folks. I think I've said on social media, but if you're listening to this, you're not on socials, I have been working non-stop for the last now 5 weeks from the office. It's taken up kind of all my time during the week. So it's been hard to get days and times to record and everything as well. So, and obviously Dan has a life at the weekend, so I can't just drag Dan away from doing stuff at very peculiar times as well. However, we've not skipped a beat in that time. We might have had a few shows we normally would have put out, like breakdowns or news updates, but we'll be making up to you. So you've had the breaking news pod already this week, and you've got this now, a Tear in the Sky review. Previously, the Jeremy Corbell audio has come out, and next week you've got the Gary Nolan interview coming out as well. So there's plenty to come and keep you going over the next couple of weeks. And hopefully, Dan, after the 17th of May, we can talk about those congressional hearings and anything that may have come out off the back of those as well.
I'd say keep an eye out on social media, because myself, Vinny, and Sean Rash are going to be doing a live watch along of those hearings. We'll see how long we last. We're in a couple of different time zones. We'll have coffee and popcorn. And yeah, we'll be kind of just watching and helping process this, quite frankly, historic moment.
Sure. And completely unrelated, but I will be totally unavailable on the 18th of May. If you're a football fan, you will know why. So until then, Dan, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you soon. That is all for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to leave the podcast a review on your chosen platform. You can like, retweet and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. The shows are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak more and more. You can sign up at patreon.com/thatUFO podcast to access the shows ad-free as well. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, That UFO Podcast. Of course, on Twitter, it's at ufouapam. And again, folks, as always, keep looking up. You never know what you might see.
wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer, more like a hubcap designed by Chaucer, a little baroque and quite steampunk, like Alice was playing bass for the Parliament of Folk. The little fucker hovered right outside of my window, and when I shoved out the screen, he made it an issue. I don't think he expected me to see his ass, but I'd had some champagne and smoked a little grass. Meditative gamma state full on meta. Can't imagine how it could have been any better. I got to the top of the stairs and there he was. Like, you awake? I was about to abduct you, cuz. I jumped back and nearly kissed myself, and I climbed out the window after the elf, and I woke up in my bed and there was something on my head and everything was weird and everything was red. And I called out to my boys. They thought this was noise. They thought it was a dream. They thought it was my toys. They thought it was my problems, and they think I should seek therapy, and I don't know what it is because it doesn't really scare me. If you really want to know who I think I be, I think it's you and me and us and we and him and her and that and she and that thing over there and what's that, Jay? But if we're being serious, open your mind, consider your heart, consider time, consider your space, consider your lies, consider your life, consider your eyes. It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer. It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer.